On the night of August 3rd, 1983, 12 armed men drifted out of their neighborhoods across south-central Los Angeles and moved toward a single block on Florence Avenue. By sunrise on August 4th, 9 of them were dead across less than half a mile of cracked pavement and alleys. All adults, all lost to panic, bad aim, territorial fear, and a chain of decisions that spiraled beyond anyone's control. The perpetrators were not a rival gang, not a cartel, not law enforcement. They were the Hale family, 3 brothers, and a fatherless household that had never sought power, never claimed territory, and never imagined they'd be forced to defend themselves like a tactical unit. California authorities would later call it a night of unexplainable street collapse. Residents still call it something else entirely, the California Massacre. But the cause wasn't drugs, wasn't money, wasn't a decades-old war between gangs. It was a woman who moved onto the block. A moment of disrespect in the wrong street, and one man, Blue Knife, whose pride outweighed logic, leadership, and the survival of his own crew. If you have the courage to hear what really happened that night, leave your like and subscribe to the channel. The story begins now. The summer heat of 1983 had a strange habit of turning every street in South Central into a pressure cooker. But that particular block on Florence Avenue was different. People said it had its own pulse. Slow during the day, furious at night, and always ready to explode without warning. That shift began the moment Isabella Torres stepped out of the yellow taxi with nothing but a duffel bag, a faded denim jacket, and a pair of eyes that carried more stories than anyone was ready to hear. She wasn't famous, she wasn't rich, she wasn't even trying to stand out, but she did, instantly, because in a place where power was currency, attention was a weapon. And Isabella accidentally pointed it at 2 men who should never have stood on the same battlefield. On one side, Darren Blue Knife Miller, a mid-tier member of the Crips, known for a sharp tongue and a trigger finger even sharper. The kind of man who didn't chase women, women chased him. That's why Isabella's indifference burned him more than any insult. On the other side stood Marcus Hale, the quiet youngest son of the Hale family, a group everyone respected, but never fully understood. They worked together, moved together, fought together. No one ever saw one Hale without at least 2 others nearby. Some whispered they'd once been part of a militia in the mountains. Others said they were just a family that refused to kneel to gangs. Marcus met Isabella first, not with charm, but with kindness. The type of kindness that didn't fit the neighborhood anymore. He carried her duffel bag up the steps of her new apartment, didn't brag about it, didn't expect anything, just did it. Blue Knife saw that, and that was enough. For 3 days, nothing happened, just whispers, looks, comments that drifted across the street like cigarette smoke. The kind of tension that grows slowly like rust on metal, until one day the whole structure snaps. That day came on a Friday evening. Isabella was leaving the corner store when Blue Knife blocked her path. His crew, 3 men with blue rags tied loosely around their necks, leaned against a wall, pretending not to watch. But they were watching everything. "You new here," Blue Knife said, smirking as if the street itself belonged to him. "Yes," she answered calmly. "You got someone showing you around?" His tone was casual, too casual, the kind of tone that hides a threat behind a smile. Before she could respond, Marcus appeared from behind, carrying a grocery bag filled with canned food and detergent. He stepped between them without hesitation. "She's fine," he said. "Let her pass." That silence, that 1 second of stillness, the whole street felt it. Blue Knife raised an eyebrow, surprised not by the words, but by who said them. Marcus was known for staying out of trouble, a Hale, but the quiet one, the one who didn't seek fights. "So now you're speaking for her?" Blue Knife asked. Marcus didn't move, didn't blink, didn't show fear. "I'm saying let her pass, that's all." Blue Knife laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that warns everyone listening that something irreversible has just begun. "All right, Hale, have it your way, but remember, I don't like people stepping on my shoes." Isabella walked past them, heart pounding so hard it felt like it echoed on the pavement. Marcus waited until she reached the gate before turning away. He didn't see Blue Knife's smile fading into something darker, deadlier, but the street did. Every witness on that block knew the rules, and they just watched one get shattered. Because in South Central 1983, there were 2 things you never did: challenge a Crip publicly and make him feel humiliated by a woman. By nightfall, the whispers had turned into warnings, and by morning, the Hale family knew exactly what had happened. Marcus walked into the kitchen at dawn, greeted by the silent stares of his brothers. Luther, the oldest, broad-shouldered and calm like a storm before landfall, and Reggie, the middle brother, known for hands that could fix a car engine or break a jaw with the same precision. "You talked to Blue Knife?" Luther asked, voice low. Marcus nodded. Reggie sighed, rubbing his temples. "Great, just great. The Crips already think they own this block." Marcus dropped the grocery bag on the table. He was disrespecting her. Luther exhaled slowly, not disappointed, not angry, just aware of the gravity that Marcus didn't fully grasp. "Listen," Luther said, "Blue Knife's the kind of man who can't take a scratch to his pride. You didn't just defend a woman. You made him look weak in front of his crew." Reggie leaned back in his chair. "And weak men with guns? They don't forget. They don't forgive." Silence swallowed the room. Marcus didn't argue. He simply looked at his brothers, the only family he had, and said, "I'm not letting him touch her." Luther stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded once, a quiet, heavy acceptance. "Then we stand with you." From that point on, the tension wasn't rumor. It was countdown. Blue Knife had been embarrassed. The Hales had chosen their side, and Isabella Torres, without even knowing it, had become the spark that would drag two worlds into collision. A collision that would end with 12 bodies on the ground. But that night, no one could imagine the magnitude of what had been set in motion. No one except Blue Knife, the man already planning his next move. And it would start with a message, one that Marcus Hale wouldn't forget. The first mistake the Crips made wasn't pulling a weapon. It wasn't the threat or the stare down or even the humiliation they thought they'd suffered when Marcus Hale stepped between Blue Knife and Isabella. Their real mistake was assuming the Hales were just another family on the block, the kind that kept their heads down, avoided gang politics, and pretended not to hear trouble breaking through the night. But the Hales were something else, something older, something built on a code you couldn't tattoo on your skin or claim with a color. A code passed inside the home, not outside on the street. Blue Knife didn't understand that. And that ignorance is what turned a simple warning into a declaration of war. It happened 2 nights after the confrontation. Isabella had just finished her shift at the laundromat, walking home with the sleeves of her denim jacket rolled up and the city's humidity clinging to her skin. The block was quiet, too quiet, the kind of quiet that feels staged, like a curtain being pulled back before the violence begins. 3 Crips waited near the corner, no Blue Knife, just his message. They stepped out from behind a parked Buick, spreading out enough to box her into the sidewalk. "Evening, sweetheart," one of them said. A tall man with gold teeth and a lazy grin. "We just want to talk." Isabella froze. Her instinct told her to run, but her reality told her she wouldn't make it 3 steps. "We heard you got a guardian angel now," another Crip added. "Little Marcus Hale. Cute." The humiliation was deliberate, calculated, aimed to sting. But before they could take another step, a voice came from across the street. "Hey!" Marcus stood there, fists clenched, chest rising and falling like someone who hadn't fully thought through what he was about to do. "Leave her alone," he said. The 3 men laughed, not because the threat was funny, but because it was unfamiliar. No one talked to them like that. No one had in years. "Look at this," the one with the gold teeth said. "Romeo came to save Juliet." The second man stepped forward. "Blue Knife said we could send a message, so let's send one." He reached for Isabella's arm, and everything snapped. Marcus crossed the street without hesitation, grabbing the man's wrist and shoving him back with a force that surprised everyone, including himself. For a split second, the entire block froze, a spark in a room filled with gasoline. The Crip who got pushed stumbled, steadied himself, and touched the ground where he'd fallen. Blood on his palm, a scrape, a wound, embarrassment. That was all it took. "You done messed up now," he growled. He swung. Marcus dodged. A fist hit metal. The echo rang down the street. Isabella screamed, backing away as the second Crip lunged forward. Marcus threw a punch, clumsy, desperate, but it landed clean on the man's jaw. The third Crip grabbed Marcus from behind, pinning his arms while the others advanced. There were no guns. Not yet. This wasn't about killing. This was about breaking someone's spirit, beating him until he never dared speak up again. But the Crips underestimated one thing. They weren't the only ones watching. From the windows, from the porches, from the shadows of the alleys, the block had eyes, and those eyes had seen enough. A car door slammed, then another, then another. Luther Hale was the first to reach them. His silence was more terrifying than any gunshot. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He simply grabbed the man holding Marcus and peeled him away like someone removing a coat. The Crip tried to swing, but Luther caught his fist midair, twisted it, and shoved him back so hard he hit the pavement with a shout of pain. Reggie arrived seconds later, stepping in front of Isabella, as if she were one of their own. "Marcus," Reggie said, not taking his eyes off the gang members. "You good?" Marcus wiped the blood from his lip. "Yeah." Gold teeth spat on the ground. "You Hales think this is over? Blue Knife ain't gonna let this slide." Luther stepped forward, shadow towering. voice calm and absolute. "Tell Blue Knife he should have come himself." The Crips backed away, furious but outnumbered, humiliated twice in public, an offense more unforgivable than any cut, bruise, or broken bone. They retreated into the night, but not before Gold Teeth said the words that sealed the fate of the block. "You're all dead. Every single one." When the Crips were gone, Reggie turned to Marcus. "You couldn't walk away, could you?" Marcus shook his head. "She needed help, and now we need help," Reggie muttered. Luther looked at Isabella, the woman who had unknowingly drawn battle lines in a neighborhood where lines meant blood. "From now on," he said, "you don't walk alone, ever." Isabella nodded, trembling but silent. Marcus met her eyes. "You okay?" She nodded slowly, but the fear behind her gaze was unmistakable. That night, word spread faster than gunfire. By sunrise, every street corner knew what happened. Every set of blue rags knew the Hales had defied the Crips not once, not twice, but 3 times. And Blue Knife? When he heard the story, he didn't yell. He didn't punch a wall. He didn't even stand up. He just sat there, turning a pocket knife in his hand with the calm, controlled rage of a man studying the exact shape of revenge. 3 men, he whispered. 3 men couldn't handle one Hale. He closed the knife, stood up, and made a single call. A call that would bring more than insults or fists. A call that would bring 12 armed men to the Hales' doorstep. A call that would ignite the massacre California forgot to record. The Hales were never the loudest family on the block. They didn't brag, didn't posture, didn't join anyone's war unless the fight came to them. But that night, as tension hung over Florence Avenue like a silent fog, every member of the family understood that something irreversible had begun. For the first time in years, the street felt like it was shrinking, folding inward, tightening around them. Inside the house, Luther sat at the kitchen table with the lights off, listening to the neighborhood breathe. Reggie stood near the counter, arms crossed, while Marcus kept pacing from one window to the next. No one raised their voice. No one talked over anyone. This was how the Hales processed danger, quietly, methodically, the way some people prepare for a storm they cannot stop but refuse to fear. Marcus broke the silence first. "This started because of me," he whispered. Luther didn't even lift his head. "This started because Blue Knife's ego is bigger than his sense. Men like him get people killed, usually their own." Reggie let out a slow exhale, and he's not going to drop it. Not after what happened tonight. "He'll send someone, maybe a couple of guys trying to prove a point." Marcus stopped pacing. "And then what?" "Then they'll send more," Luther said. There was no anger in his voice, only a certainty shaped by years of living in a place where every slight carried a price. The youngest Hale leaned against the wall, thinking of Isabella and the look she'd had when the Crips surrounded her. Fear, confusion, a quiet, wounded pride. He couldn't let that happen again. He wouldn't. "I'm standing in this," Marcus said. "Whatever comes." Reggie looked at him, not judging, not doubting, just weighing the weight of those words. "Then we're standing with you." And with that, the Hales made their decision. Not to run, not to hide, not to bow. They would face whatever came, even if they didn't know what form it would take. It didn't take long for the first sign to appear. At 1:17 in the morning, someone knocked on the door. 3 short taps. Not urgent, not violent. Just enough to raise the hairs on the back of Marcus's neck. Luther gestured with his hand. Lights stayed off. No unnecessary sound. Marcus peered through the side window. 2 Crips stood on the porch. Young, underfed, anxious. Not killers, not even soldiers. Boys trying to look like men. Luther cracked the door open, keeping himself behind it. "You boys lost?" One of them swallowed, eyes darting everywhere except into Luther's. "Blue Knife wants a word." "Then Blue Knife should ask himself," Luther said. The second Crip shifted and placed his hand near his waistband, trying to look dangerous. But before he could escalate anything, Reggie opened the side screen door with a force that made both men jump. His silhouette filled the frame like a warning neither of them wanted to test. "This isn't the street you want to gamble with tonight," Reggie said. The boys backed up, attempting to maintain whatever pride they came with, and disappeared into the dark. No shouting, no confrontation, just a failed attempt at intimidation. But in neighborhoods like this, failure didn't stop trouble, it fueled it. Less than an hour later, at 2:06 a.m., the second wave arrived, this time from the alley behind the house. 3 men, older than the first group, walked fast and whispered too loudly, a sign they were not nearly as prepared as they believed. Reggie spotted them through the back window. "They're circling behind us," he whispered. Before anyone moved, Luther stepped outside into the darkness. He didn't need to threaten anyone. He didn't even raise his voice. He simply appeared in the alley like a pillar carved into the night. The three Crips froze when they noticed him. One held a bottle in his hand, not a weapon, just liquid courage pretending to be bravery. He lifted it, trying to look tough, and that was all it took for fear to overwhelm him. The bottle slipped from his hand and exploded against the ground, shards of glass scattering across the pavement. The sound cracked through the neighborhood like a gunshot. Porch lights flicked on. Windows opened. A woman shouted something unintelligible from across the street. Panic spread through the three men instantly. One tripped over a trash can. Another tried to run through a fence and bounced off the wood, and the third slipped on the broken glass, slicing his arm open before scrambling away. They fled without a single punch thrown. The Hales hadn't laid a hand on them. Chaos had done all the work. But chaos has a habit of calling more chaos. Somewhere a few blocks away, Blue Knife heard the story. Not the real one, but the exaggerated version passed along by frightened followers who needed someone to blame. And when the word ran and Hales stood there like nothing reached his ears, something inside him snapped. He didn't shout. He didn't slam anything. He just sat there, turning his pocket knife between his fingers, thinking. Pressure pressed in from all sides. His crew needed him to do something bold, loud, decisive. Pride demanded revenge. His reputation demanded spectacle. So he made the worst decision of the night. No more warnings, he muttered. No more small groups. He pulled a phone closer and said, "Wake everybody up. We're ending this tonight." The men he called weren't trained shooters. They weren't coordinated. Some were drunk, others high. All of them angry for reasons they barely understood. They didn't move as one unit. They moved like 12 separate storms headed toward the same point, impulsive, messy, unpredictable, and they were coming for the Hale family. Not all at once, not together, but piece by piece, mistake by mistake, until the night spiraled into something no one in California would ever forget. The night didn't break all at once. It cracked slowly, like ice under pressure, each sound hinting at something worse waiting behind it. Florence Avenue had gone quiet in a way that made every breath feel borrowed, every second stretched thin, and somewhere in that silence, 12 men were moving, not together, not coordinated, but drifting through the neighborhood like scattered embers blown off a burning match. Inside the Hale house, Luther stood near the living room window. Marcus sat on the couch beside Isabella, who hadn't said a word since she arrived. Reggie paced through the hallway, checking each door, each lock, like a ritual he'd learned long before this night. At 3:51 a.m., the first sound hit. It wasn't a gunshot. It wasn't shouting. It was the squeal of tires, fast, sharp, too close, followed by the abrupt slam of a car door. Reggie stepped to the window. "That's not ours." A figure stumbled out of a blue Chevy Malibu, nerves visible even from across the street. He wasn't aiming. He wasn't thinking. He simply fired 2 shots into the air, more to announce himself than to threaten anyone. A rookie mistake, a loud mistake. 2 houses down, an older man named Raymond Jenkins, a Vietnam veteran who hated gang noise more than he feared death, opened his window and shouted, "Not on my damn block!" The Crips spun, startled, firing toward the voice. But Raymond wasn't foolish. He'd already ducked. What the Crip didn't expect was the neighbor 3 doors behind him, Mrs. Carter's son, who'd lost a brother to a stray bullet years ago, sprinting out with a shotgun. The blast lit up the street. The Crip dropped instantly, 1 down, not by the Hales, but by the neighborhood he tried to intimidate. Luther whispered, "It's starting." The second wave came much faster. 2 men approached from the east alley, whispering harshly, arguing over whether they were on the right street. One of them carried a sawed-off shotgun. The other held a pistol sideways, more theatrical than practical. But the alley wasn't empty. Behind a stack of trash cans, a homeless man named Edgar had been sleeping. He woke to the argument, confused and half-blind, thinking they were trying to rob him. He shouted, reached for a rusted pipe and swung wildly. The man with the pistol fired in panic. The bullet ricocheted off a dumpster, bounced off the brick wall, and struck the shotgun carrier right in the thigh. He collapsed, screaming. The pistol man ran, leaving his partner bleeding in garbage water, calling for help that would never come. 2 down. Again, the Hales hadn't fired a single shot. Marcus swallowed hard. "This is out of control." "No," Luther said. "This is what happens when men follow anger without a leader." But chaos wasn't slowing down. It was gathering speed. Around 4:09 a.m., a black Impala rolled slowly down the street. Inside, 4 Crips argued loudly. They couldn't agree on whether to rush the Hale house, intimidate the neighbors, or wait for Blue Knife himself. The driver kept shouting that they were in the wrong place. The man in the back insisted they should send a message anyway. They saw Luther's silhouette in the window. They panicked. A gun went off, not aimed, not planned. The bullet struck the hood of a parked car, bounced upward, and shattered the windshield. The sound of breaking glass spooked the driver. His foot slammed the accelerator. The Impala lurched forward, clipped a fire hydrant, skidded sideways, and slammed into a telephone pole. The crash echoed through the block like thunder. The man in the passenger seat flew through the windshield. Another struck his head on the doorframe. The driver staggered out, dazed, only to collapse from a neck wound caused by flying glass. 3 more down, dead or dying within seconds. Still, the Hales never moved. Inside the house, Isabella covered her mouth with both hands. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're safe here," he whispered, though he didn't believe his own words anymore. The next danger didn't arrive by car or alley. It arrived on foot. 2 Crips approached from opposite ends of the street, unaware of each other. Both believed they were the first ones to reach the Hale house. Both thought they were acting alone. Both were carrying more fear than confidence. One crouched behind a mailbox, trying to steady his shaking hands. The other hid behind a parked van, breathing hard, whispering a prayer he hadn't said in years. Then they saw movement. Not the Hales, each other. Both panicked, both fired. The shots crossed the street like frantic streaks of light. The man behind the van fell first, struck twice. The one behind the mailbox stumbled away, bleeding from the neck, collapsing on the sidewalk as the streetlights flickered above him. By 4:23 a.m., and the block had turned into something surreal, a battleground built by confusion, arrogance, and fear. 9 men were down, none from a clean confrontation, none because of strategy, just chaos, and Blue Knife wasn't even there yet. Inside the house, Luther knew what that meant. The next ones won't be kids. He'll send the men he actually trusts. Reggie checked the back door. "We're not leaving?" "No," Luther said. "Running makes you predictable." Marcus tightened his fists. "What do? We wait." Outside, the street grew quiet again. Not peaceful, but the kind of quiet that signals something heavier coming, something deliberate. The Hale brothers exchanged a look. They'd survived the chaos, but the real threat hadn't even stepped onto the block yet. Blue Knife was on his way, and he wasn't coming alone. By the time the street fell quiet again, the sky had begun to pale at the edges. Dawn wasn't close, but it was approaching with the slow inevitability of something that couldn't be stopped. 9 bodies lay scattered across Florence Avenue in different corners, as if the night had shattered them like glass and thrown the pieces across the block. Inside the Hale home, no one spoke. Not because of fear, that emotion had burned out hours ago, but because the weight of what lay beyond the walls was too heavy to put into words. Isabella sat at the dining table with her knees pulled to her chest, staring at nothing, the sounds of gunshots still echoing inside her mind. Marcus stayed near her, pacing, stopping, pacing again. Reggie checked each window methodically, while Luther simply stood in the dark living room, arms crossed, waiting for the next inevitable shift in the storm. It didn't take long. At 4:37 a.m., a rusted blue van rolled slowly onto the street. Unlike the Impala earlier, this one moved with intention, steady, controlled, the engine barely audible. It stopped at the far end of the block, not close to the Hale house, but close enough to command the street. Blue Knife stepped out. He didn't run. He didn't shout. He didn't even look at the bodies lying on the pavement. He walked calmly, like a man arriving late to a meeting he already knew would go badly. 2 older men stepped out behind him, not teenagers, not reckless recruits, but real gang members who'd survived long enough to understand the difference between a message and a war. Blue Knife surveyed the street with a cold, unreadable expression. His crew didn't panic like the others. They didn't scatter or run. They did something far more dangerous. They watched. Luther saw them through the window. He didn't flinch. "They're here," he said quietly. Reggie moved beside him. "The real ones, huh?" "Yeah." Marcus came forward, fists tight. "What do they want?" Luther didn't answer at first. He just kept observing Blue Knife's posture, his stillness, the way he didn't look toward the Hale house but toward the chaos left behind. "They're not here to fight," Luther finally said. "Not yet." Outside, Blue Knife crouched near the crashed Impala, examining the shattered windshield and the blood on the pavement. He didn't need to ask what happened. Chaos leaves its own handwriting, and he could read every line. One of his older associates approached him. "Blue, you want to pull back? This block's awake. Someone probably already called the cops." "No one on this street calls the cops," Blue Knife replied calmly. "Not after tonight." He wasn't wrong. In neighborhoods like this, police meant questions. Questions meant blame. And blame meant retaliation. Everyone kept their mouths shut, even when the world burned around them. Blue Knife stood, wiped his palms on his jeans, and finally looked toward the Hale house. 3 brothers, he murmured. All that over one girl? The man beside him shrugged. This ain't about her anymore. No, Blue Knife said. It's about pride. He took a slow breath. And pride has a price. From inside the house, Isabella lifted her head, sensing something outside had shifted. He's here, isn't he? She whispered. Marcus nodded. Yeah. Fear flickered in her eyes. Not fear of Blue Knife himself, but fear of what the night had turned her into. A symbol, a spark, a reason for men to kill and die. I never wanted this, she whispered. I know, Marcus said softly. None of us did. Outside, Blue Knife began walking down the street, not toward the Hale house, but toward the bodies. He counted them, not out loud, but with his eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one telling a story of panic, miscalculation, stupid bravery, and reckless loyalty. He wasn't angry, he was calculating. When he reached the middle of the block, he stopped and looked directly at the Hale house window. Luther didn't hide. He stood there, visible, arms crossed, meeting Blue Knife's stare with quiet, immovable resolve. For a long moment, neither man moved. 2 forces, 2 histories, no theatrics, just understanding. Finally, Blue Knife spoke, loud enough for only the street to hear. This ends when one of us says so, and it ain't gonna be tonight. The words didn't sound like a threat. They sounded like a promise. He turned to his crew. Get the bodies. Clean the street. They hesitated. Blue. Cops. We move fast, he snapped, and they obeyed. Across the block, porch lights flicked off one by one as neighbors retreated into the safety of walls and curtains. No one wanted to be seen watching. No one wanted to be next. Inside the house, Reggie whispered, He's taking his dead. That's not normal. No, Luther agreed. It means he's thinking, and thinking means planning, Marcus added. Luther nodded. This isn't over. He's not walking away. He's repositioning. As Blue Knife's men loaded the bodies into the van, one of the older gang members approached him. What's the move now? Blue Knife looked toward the Hale house one last time. His expression didn't show hatred, only anger at himself for letting the night get so far out of control. We don't hit them again tonight, he said. They're dug in, and they ain't stupid. So tomorrow? The man asked. Blue Knife's jaw tightened. No, we find another way. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. The street understood exactly what another way meant. Leverage, pressure, collateral. As the van pulled away with the last of the bodies, the Hale house stayed silent. No cheers, no relief, no belief that they had survived anything. They hadn't. They had only reached the part where violence becomes consequence. The sun wasn't up yet. The block was covered in blood, and Blue Knife was planning something that didn't require guns or chaos. It required pain and patience. The Hale brothers looked at each other, realizing that the night hadn't ended. It had only changed shape. Morning didn't arrive with sunlight. It arrived with silence, the heavy kind that settles over a street after a night that everyone wishes they could erase. Florence Avenue looked like it had aged 10 years in a matter of hours. Neighbors didn't open their doors. Curtains stayed closed. Even the stray dogs walked carefully, as if afraid the pavement still remembered what had happened. Inside the Hale house, no one had slept. Isabella sat wrapped in a blanket, staring at the wall as if expecting it to move. Marcus hovered near her, unable to sit still. Reggie kept checking the doors, even though he'd already checked them a dozen times. And Luther, who seemed carved from something harder than stone, stood near the window, watching the street with eyes that didn't blink enough. At 7:12 a.m., a police cruiser rolled slowly down the block, not with sirens, with hesitation. 2 officers looked around, confused, whispering to each other. They saw broken glass, skid marks, blood trails, but no bodies, no victims, no witnesses, and no one stepped outside to answer questions. The car drove off after barely a minute. This street knows how to clean up after itself, Reggie muttered. Doesn't matter, Luther replied. They'll come back later, with more questions. Isabella's voice broke through, soft and fragile. What happens now? Marcus didn't answer. He didn't know how, but Luther did. Now, he said, Blue Knife decides how far he's willing to take this, and we decide what we're willing to lose. Silence settled again, until footsteps appeared outside. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Marcus reached for the baseball bat leaning against the wall. Reggie grabbed a wrench. Luther didn't move. A single knock sounded at the door. Not frantic, not threatening. Just one firm knock. Luther opened it halfway. Blue Knife stood alone on the porch. No crew, no guns. No anger on his face, just exhaustion and calculation. 2 things that were far more dangerous when paired. We done here? Blue Knife asked. Luther didn't answer. He simply stared back, waiting. Blue Knife sighed and rubbed the bridge of his nose. I lost 12 men last night. Some to this street, some to themselves, some to that racket you call a family. We didn't fire a shot, Luther said calmly. Doesn't matter, Blue Knife replied. They're still dead. Marcus stepped closer. So what do you want? I want this to stop, Blue Knife said. Before it gets worse. Reggie scoffed. Worse? For who? For everyone, Blue Knife answered. You think my set's gonna let this go? You think your neighbors want another night like that? You think the cops won't shut this block down once they smell how many died? He wasn't wrong. Blue Knife leaned against the railing, lowering his voice. Look, I know how this started. My boys went too far. Yours stepped in. That girl, Luther cut him off. Her name is Isabella. Blue Knife nodded once. Fine, Isabella. She didn't ask for this. None of you did. But we're here now, and the only way this doesn't end with more bodies is if we make something clear. And what's that? Marcus asked. That there's a line, Blue Knife said, pointing at the ground. Your family stays on your side of it. My people stay on theirs. No more confrontations. No more stepping in. No more heroics. Streets need order. Last night broke it, Reggie frowned. That's the deal? We just stay out of your way? Blue Knife looked him dead in the eyes. No, you stay alive. It wasn't a threat. It was a fact. And in return? Luther asked. In return, Blue Knife said, I tell my set the 12 deaths were from a beef with another crew. Not you. They'll accept it. They have to. No one wants to admit they rushed into a block without a plan and got themselves killed by panic, glass, bad aim, and stupid decisions. For the first time, Marcus realized the full weight of what Blue Knife was doing. He wasn't offering peace because he respected them. He was offering peace because admitting the truth would tear his gang apart from the inside. He needed the lie. The Hales needed the quiet. The block needed the breathing room. This only works if you protect your girl, Blue Knife added, nodding toward Isabella inside. Because if any of my boys think she's still part of this, they'll try again. And the next time, the street might not save them. Luther processed everything, every angle, every risk, every consequence. Then he extended his hand. Blue Knife stared at it for a long, tense moment before shaking it once. That's it then, he said. We walk away. You walk away. He turned, stepping off the porch, but halfway down the path he stopped and spoke without looking back. Tell Marcus something. Luther waited. Tell him next time he wants to defend a woman. Pick a neighborhood where people don't die for pride. Then he walked off, disappearing between the houses as the morning light finally touched the street. Inside, the house exhaled. Not relief, just release. Isabella began to cry quietly. Marcus knelt beside her, holding her hands, unsure whether the tears were for the night, the deaths, or the guilt she carried for events she never meant to ignite. Reggie sat on the couch, shaking his head. We survived a war without picking up a gun. Luther looked out the window one last time. No, he said. We survived a night. Wars last longer, but the street remembered. It still remembers, because long after the bodies disappeared, long after Blue Knife rebuilt his gang's pride, long after Isabella moved away and the Hales tried to return to anonymity, people still whispered about that night, not as a battle, not as a victory, but as an agreement forged between two sides who both understood one truth. Pride demands blood, but wisdom demands a boundary. And that is how the Massacre of California ended. Not with gunfire, not with revenge, but with a deal that kept a neighborhood breathing.